I was sitting in a conference room negotiating a $1 million deal when my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. The preview showed an image attachment. Something told me to open it right then, despite the three executives staring at me across the mahogany table. The room tilted. My wife Jessica was kissing another man in our kitchen. Not a peck. A full, passionate embrace. Her fingers tangled in his hair, his hands gripping her waist exactly where mine had been that morning when I'd kissed her goodbye. "Mr. Patterson, are you all right?" I looked up at the concerned faces around me. "Gentlemen, I apologize. Family emergency. My assistant will reschedule." I was in my car before anyone could respond, hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. The message that accompanied the photo read, "Thought you should know what happens every Tuesday and Thursday while you're at work. A concerned neighbor." Tuesday and Thursday. My late days. The days I stayed until 7 or 8, building the consulting firm that was supposed to secure our future. The irony tasted like copper in my mouth. It was 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I was supposed to be in meetings until 6. I drove home to our house in Riverside, Connecticut, my mind cataloging every detail with the cold precision that had made me successful in business. The timestamp on the photo, 2:23 p.m., 24 minutes ago. I'd left the office at 2:35, made it to my car by 2:40. The drive home normally took 30 minutes, but I was making it in 20. Our neighborhood was quiet, lined with maple trees just beginning to turn autumn colors. Jessica's silver Lexus sat in the driveway. Next to it was a black BMW I didn't recognize. I parked on the street 2 houses down and pulled up my home security app. We'd installed cameras 6 months ago after a string of break-ins in the area. Jessica had been enthusiastic about it, even helped me position them for optimal coverage. The kitchen, living room, front door, and garage were all covered. She'd forgotten about the cameras, or thought I'd never check them during work hours. I scrolled back to 1 p.m. The BMW pulled up at 1:17. A man got out. Tall, athletic build, probably mid-30s. He walked to our front door like he owned the place. Jessica answered before he could knock, wearing a dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. She pulled him inside. They went straight to the kitchen. The kissing started immediately, hungry and familiar. This wasn't new. The way she touched him, the way he navigated our home, heading toward the stairs without hesitation, they had a routine. I fast-forwarded. They came back downstairs at 2:51. He left at 3:03. My phone said 3:07 now. I opened my cloud storage and started downloading every security video from the past 6 months. Then I called my business partner, Tom. "Hey, I need you to handle the Riverside account. Something's come up." "Everything okay?" "Will be. I'll explain later." I hung up and dialed my attorney, Robert Finch. We'd gone to Yale together, and he'd handled the legal work when I started my firm. He answered on the second ring. "James, long time. What's going on?" "I need a divorce attorney. The best one you know? Someone ruthless." Silence. Then, "Jesus. Jessica? Can you make some calls?" "I'll text you a name in 5 minutes." "James, I'm sorry." "Don't be. Just get me that name." The text came through in 3 minutes. Victoria Walsh, Manhattan. She's expensive but worth every penny. Handled the Brennan case last year. Calling her now to give her a heads up. I knew the Brennan case. The wife had tried to hide assets in the Caymans. She'd walked away with nothing but her student loan debt. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Patterson? Victoria Walsh?" Robert filled me in on the basics. "Before you do anything else, I need you to listen carefully. Do not confront your wife. Do not let her know you suspect anything. Can you do that?" Her voice was sharp, commanding. I liked her immediately. "Yes." "Good. How did you find out?" I explained the photo, the security footage. "Perfect. Keep downloading everything." I also need you to gather financial documents, bank statements, credit cards, investment accounts, everything. Make copies. Do you have a separate account she doesn't know about? No. Open one tomorrow. Start diverting your direct deposit. How much do you make? 400,000 base plus bonuses. Last year total was around 650. And her? She's a real estate agent. Maybe 80,000 in a good year. This year's been slow. Joint accounts? Checking and savings. Investment accounts are in my name. I opened them before we got married. How long married? 8 years. No prenup. The stupidity of that decision hit me fresh. Children? No. That simplifies things. Connecticut is an equitable distribution state, not community property, which works in our favor given the income disparity. We need to establish her infidelity with ironclad evidence. The security footage is good, but I want more. Phone records, emails, financial statements showing any unusual spending. Can you access her phone? She uses facial recognition, but she sleeps heavily. Tonight, if possible, download her messages, emails, everything. There are apps. I'll send you a link. Also, does she have any separate accounts you know of? Not that I'm aware of. Check. Women having affairs often open secret accounts. Look for unusual cash withdrawals from your joint accounts too. I was taking notes now, my business brain kicking in. This was just another negotiation, another deal to win. When can we meet? I asked. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., my office. She gave me the address. And Mr. Patterson? I know this is difficult, but you need to act completely normal when you see her. Can you do that? I looked at our house, at the life I'd built with a woman who'd been betraying me every Tuesday and Thursday for God knew how long. I can do whatever it takes. I pulled into a coffee shop parking lot 3 blocks from the house. My hands had finally stopped shaking. The phone sat on the passenger seat like a loaded weapon. Victoria's instructions echoed. Get into her phone. Tonight if possible. I need those messages. But first, the bank account. I pulled up my banking app and opened a new checking account. The process took 4 minutes. They'd mail a debit card to my office within 7 business days. I set up the account with paperless statements and transferred $50,000 from our joint savings. Not enough to trigger immediate notice. Just enough to have options. The transfer completed at 3:42 p.m. Next, I needed those financial documents. Our home office had filing cabinets with tax returns, investment statements, property records. Jessica handled most of the household paperwork. Ironic, considering I was the one with the MBA. I sat in the parking lot until 4:15, then drove home. The house looked exactly as I'd left it that morning. Quiet. Empty. The autumn sun cast long shadows across our perfectly maintained lawn. I unlocked the door and stood in the kitchen where, hours earlier, my wife had been kissing another man. The coffee mugs were gone. She'd cleaned up. I went upstairs to the office and began photographing documents. Tax returns from the last 5 years. Bank statements. Investment account summaries. The deed to the house. Jessica's business records from her real estate work. My phone's camera roll filled with evidence of our financial life together. In the back of the filing cabinet, I found something interesting. A folder labeled JMP Properties LLC. I'd never heard of it. Inside were formation documents for a limited liability company, registered 18 months ago. Jessica Marie Patterson was listed as the sole member. The registered agent was an attorney in Stamford I didn't recognize. I photographed every page. What the hell was JMP Properties? I searched through more files but found nothing else related to the LLC. No bank statements, no transaction records, nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. Running late with a showing. Home by 6:30. Want me to pick up dinner? I stared at the message. The casual domesticity of it. The absolute normalcy. Act normal, Victoria had said. I typed back, "Sure, whatever you want." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, "Tie from that place you like?" "Perfect." A heart emoji appeared in response. I set the phone down before I threw it against the wall. It was 5:20 p.m. I had over an hour before she got home. I went to our bedroom and opened Jessica's nightstand drawer. Her phone charger, some hand lotion, a paperback novel. Nothing useful. Her jewelry box sat on the dresser. I lifted the top tray, earrings, bracelets, the pearl necklace I'd bought her for our 5th anniversary. Beneath the tray, folded small, was a business card. I unfolded it. Evan Cross Photography. Fine art. Portraits. Commercial. Below the text was a phone number and a website URL. I photographed the card and put it back exactly as I'd found it. Why would Jessica have a photographer's business card hidden in her jewelry box? I pulled out my phone and navigated to the website. The home page loaded with a clean, minimalist design. Black and white photographs filled the screen. Architectural shots, corporate headshots, family portraits, professional work. Expensive looking. I clicked through to the portfolio section. The galleries were organized by category: corporate, weddings, family, fine art. I opened fine art. The first few images were abstract: close-ups of textures, dramatic lighting studies, urban landscapes. Then the photographs shifted to people, artistic portraits with dramatic shadows and careful composition. I scrolled further. The images became more intimate. Still artistic, still carefully lit and composed, but the subjects wore less. Implied nudity, shadows strategically placed. The kind of work that lived in the space between portrait photography and something else. Then I saw her. The photograph showed a woman reclining on white sheets. Her face was turned away from the camera, obscured by the fall of her dark hair. One arm stretched above her head, the other draped across her body. The lighting created dramatic shadows across her bare back and the curve of her hip. No face visible. Completely anonymous. But I knew that body. I knew the small birthmark on her right shoulder blade. I knew the delicate curve of her spine. I knew the exact shape of her hip, the way her waist tapered. I'd traced those lines with my own hands for 8 years. I scrolled to the next image. The same woman, same session. Sitting with her back to the camera, looking over her shoulder, but her face remained hidden behind the cascade of dark hair. Another image. Lying on her stomach, face buried in her arms. Another. Standing by a window, silhouetted against bright light, features completely obscured. Every photograph carefully composed to hide her identity while showcasing her body. My wife's body. The room tilted the same way it had in the conference room. I checked the date stamp on the gallery. The series was titled Study in Light and dated from 14 months ago, before the LLC was formed, before the affair started. Or maybe not before. Maybe this was how it started. I navigated back to the main page and found an About section. Evan Cross's biography described him as a fine art photographer specializing in portraiture and conceptual work. He'd studied at the Rhode Island School of Design, worked in New York for several years, then relocated to Connecticut to open his own studio. There was a photograph of the artist himself. Mid-30s, tall build, dark hair styled carefully, good-looking in that artistic, slightly disheveled way. He looked nothing like the man I'd seen on the security footage. I went back to the portfolio and studied the images again. The photographs were dated 14 months ago, but when were they taken? And why? Had Jessica modeled for him? Was this connected to the affair or something separate? I thought about the hidden LLC, the photographer's card in her jewelry box, the artistic nude photographs. My phone showed 6:05 p.m. I forwarded the photographer's website to my personal email, then sent it to Victoria Walsh with a brief message. Found this. Wife is the model in Study in Light series. Hidden business card in her jewelry box. Victoria responded within 2 minutes. Interesting. Document everything. Still need phone access tonight. I went back downstairs and poured myself a scotch. Neat. I didn't usually drink before dinner, but Normal had left the building around 2:23 p.m. The scotch burned going down. I thought about Jessica coming home in 20 minutes with Thai food, smiling, asking about my day, wearing whatever mask she wore when she played the role of faithful wife. I thought about those photographs, the artistic composition, the careful lighting, the way they revealed everything while showing nothing. Had she been paid? Was that what the LLC was for? Income from modeling? Or was it something else? A gift for the photographer? For someone else? My phone buzzed. Jessica again. Leaving now. Be home in 15. I finished the scotch and rinsed the glass. 15 minutes to compose myself. To put on my own mask. I could do this. I'd negotiated million-dollar deals while exhausted, jet-lagged, running on coffee and determination. I'd presented to hostile boardrooms, navigated corporate politics, closed contracts with people I despised. This was just another performance. I sat down at the kitchen table and pulled out my laptop, opening a random spreadsheet to look busy. At 6:32 p.m., I heard her car in the driveway. The front door opened. James, I'm home. Her voice was bright, cheerful, the same voice that had laughed in our kitchen while kissing another man. I looked up from my laptop as she walked in carrying bags of Thai food. She smiled at me. I smiled back. How was your day? She asked. The drive home took 43 minutes. Rush hour traffic crawled through Stamford, giving me too much time to think about what I'd seen. Jessica, naked, posed on white sheets with her face carefully turned away from the camera, one hand trailing across her stomach. Another shot with her back arched, hair cascading down. A third with shadows playing across her curves. Artistic erotica, the website called it. Tasteful. Sophisticated. 14 months ago. I'd been negotiating the Brennan contract 14 months ago, working late every night for 3 weeks straight. I'd missed our anniversary dinner that month, rescheduled it for the following weekend. She'd been understanding, supportive. She'd been taking her clothes off for Evan Cross's camera. The business card was still in my jacket pocket. I pulled into our driveway at 6:47 p.m., the autumn sun already low behind the maples. Jessica's Lexus sat in its usual spot. Lights glowed warm in the kitchen windows. I sat in my car for 30 seconds, breathing, centering myself. The fury was there, cold and sharp, but I wrapped it in professional calm. Just another negotiation, just another performance. My phone buzzed. Victoria Walsh. Phone access tonight is critical, she said without preamble. We need her messages, emails, calendar, everything. I know. Don't confront, don't hint. Act completely normal. I understand. Call me after, doesn't matter what time. She ended the call. I grabbed my briefcase and headed inside. Jessica was at the stove, stirring something that smelled like garlic and wine. She'd changed from whatever she'd worn earlier, probably the outfit she'd peeled off for the BMW man, into yoga pants and one of my old Yale sweatshirts. Her hair was damp from a shower, washing away the evidence. Hey, honey, she smiled over her shoulder. How was your day? Long. The Westchester proposal needed major revisions. I set my briefcase down, loosened my tie. Smells good? Chicken piccata. Should be ready in 20 minutes. She turned back to the stove. There's a beer in the fridge if you want one. I grabbed a Sam Adams, let the cold bottle ground me. Anything interesting happen today? She shrugged. Quiet Thursday. Did some paperwork at the office, returned client calls. The usual. The lie came so easily, so smoothly, like she'd practiced. Any showings scheduled this week? 2 tomorrow, 1 Saturday morning. She added capers to the pan. The Riverside Colonial finally got an offer. 20,000 under asking, but the sellers are motivated. I watched her move around our kitchen. Comfortable, relaxed, completely at ease with her deception. How many times had she done this? Spent the afternoon with another man, or multiple men, then come home and cooked dinner like nothing happened? I was thinking, I said carefully, we should update our family photos. The ones in the living room are 3 years old. Jessica glanced at me, surprised. That's random. Tom mentioned it at lunch. He just had professional shots done with his family. They look great. I sipped my beer. We could use some new ones. I guess. She tested the chicken with a fork. Who did Tom use? Some photographer in Westport. But I saw another guy's work online today. Really impressive portfolio. Evan Cross. Ever heard of him? I watched her face, watched for any flicker, any tell. Nothing. Not even a pause. No, she said. Should I have? Either she was an incredible actress, or the photographer meant nothing to her. A transaction. A job. Something she'd compartmentalized and filed away. He does fine art photography, I continued. Portraits, artistic work. Very high-end. Sounds expensive. Jessica plated the chicken, added pasta. We could just do something casual. Outdoor shots, natural light. Save some money. Yeah, maybe. I let it drop. Need help with anything? Just grab the salad from the fridge. We ate dinner at the kitchen table. Jessica talked about a difficult client, a property inspection that revealed foundation issues, office gossip about another agent's messy divorce. I made appropriate responses, asked follow-up questions, played the attentive husband, all while watching her, looking for cracks in the facade. She was good. Really good. If I hadn't seen the security footage, hadn't found those photographs, I'd never suspect anything. She met my eyes when she talked, laughed at my jokes, touched my hand when she reached for the salt. The performance was flawless. At 8:15 p.m. she stood and started clearing dishes. I'm going to take a bath and turn in early. Long day tomorrow. I've got some work emails to handle, I said. Might be up for a while. Don't stay up too late. She kissed my cheek on her way past. The same cheek she'd kissed this morning before I left for the office. Before she'd spent 2 hours with the BMW man. I waited until I heard the bathroom door close upstairs, heard the water running. Then I moved. Her phone was charging on the kitchen counter. Same spot she always left it. I grabbed it and headed to my study, closing the door quietly. My hands were steady as I connected it to my laptop. The software Victoria's investigator had recommended took 40 seconds to install, hidden in the phone's operating system where Jessica would never find it. Mirroring activated. Every text, email, call, and app notification would now copy to my secure cloud account in real time. But I needed what was already there. The history. The evidence. I opened her messages first. The contact labeled M had 347 messages. The most recent was from 3:28 p.m. today. M, already missing you. Jessica. Same, Tuesday? M, can't wait that long, tomorrow night? Jessica. James has dinner with clients. Come at 7 sour. My vision narrowed. Tomorrow night. While I was supposedly at dinner, the BMW man would be in our house, in our bed. I scrolled up. Weeks of messages. Months. M, you're incredible. Jessica. You make me feel alive. M, leave him. We could be together. Jessica. You know it's complicated. M, the money? Jessica. Everything. Just give me time. I forced myself to keep reading, to document everything. The affair had started 7 months ago. May. Right after I'd taken the consulting position that required more travel. The messages were explicit without being crude. Plans for meetings, reminiscences about previous encounters, discussions about a future together, and complaints about me. Jessica. He doesn't even notice. Works all the time, barely looks at me. M. His loss, my gain. Jessica. Sometimes I wonder if he'd even care. The irony would have been funny if it didn't taste like ash. I moved to her emails. The account I knew about was clean. Client correspondence, shopping confirmations, social plans with friends. But there was a second account. Gmail, not her usual Outlook. Registered 18 months ago. The same time she'd formed JMP Properties, LLC. I opened it. 43 emails from Evan Cross Photography. The first dated 14 months ago. Subject, Portfolio Review. Jessica, attached are the final edited images from our session. You were a natural. The camera loves you. As discussed, these will appear in my fine art portfolio with your identity protected. Payment of $2,500 has been deposited to the account you specified. She'd been paid $2,500 for taking off her clothes. I opened the attachment. 12 photographs. Jessica on white sheets, against brick walls, in dramatic shadows. All artfully composed, all unmistakably her. The next email was 3 weeks later. Subject, additional session? I have a client interested in commissioning a private portfolio. Similar aesthetic, higher compensation. $5,000 for a 2-hour session. Interested? Her response, yes. When? I scrolled through the correspondence. 5 sessions over 6 months. $25,000 total. All deposited to an account I'd never seen. The final email was from 8 months ago. Subject, thank you. Jessica, this will be our last collaboration. My client has requested exclusivity with the model moving forward. I've appreciated working with you. Best of luck. Evan. Her response was brief. Understood. Thanks for the opportunity. The client who wanted exclusivity. The BMW man? I checked the timeline. The affair with M started 1 month after the photography sessions ended. Connected? Or coincidence? The bathwater had stopped running upstairs. I had maybe 10 more minutes. I opened her calendar. The official one showed client meetings, showings, office time. But there was a second calendar. Private. Shared with only one contact. M, every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 7 months. 2-hour blocks labeled R, our address in Riverside, and other entries. Weekend afternoons when I'd been traveling. W Hotel, room 847. His place, Stamford. Darien Beach, North Lot. She'd been meticulous, organized, planned every encounter like a business meeting. I photographed everything with my phone, screenshots of messages, emails, calendar entries, uploaded them to my secure cloud. Victoria would have her evidence. Footsteps overhead. Jessica moving around the bedroom. I disconnected her phone, wiped my prints from the screen, and carried it back to the kitchen counter. Plugged it in exactly where she'd left it. Back in my study, I texted Victoria. Done. Sending files now. Her response came in seconds. Reviewing. This is solid. Very solid. I sat at my desk and stared at nothing. The rage was still there, colder now. Sharper. Jessica had been selling herself, taking money for nude photographs. Then graduated to an affair with someone wealthy enough to pay for exclusivity, to meet in hotels, to text about leaving me for the money. 7 months of lies, of planning, of using our home, our bed, our marriage as cover for whatever she was building with him. My phone buzzed. Victoria again. The LLC is the key. She's hiding money, probably planning her exit. We need to find those accounts before she moves anything. Can you access her laptop? I looked at the ceiling, heard Jessica moving around upstairs, probably already in bed with a book. Tomorrow, I typed back. She'll be out from 10:03 for showings. Perfect. I'm sending someone to help. Professional. Discreet. Okay. James, you're doing everything right. Stay calm. Stay focused. We're going to bury her. I set down my phone. Tomorrow, I'd find the money. Find out who M really was. Connect all the pieces. Tonight, I had to go upstairs and lie next to my wife. Pretend everything was normal. Pretend I didn't know. The photographer's studio occupied the ground floor of a converted warehouse in Stamford's Arts District. I'd scheduled the family photo session for Saturday morning, claiming I wanted professional portraits for our 10th anniversary next year. Jessica had seemed surprised but pleased when I mentioned it over dinner Wednesday night. "That's really thoughtful," she'd said, touching my hand across the table. "I've been wanting to update our photos." I'd smiled and squeezed her fingers, playing the attentive husband, while my phone recorded every word under the table. Now I stood outside Evan Cross's studio at 9:47 a.m., Jessica beside me in a cream sweater and jeans. The October air carried the smell of coffee from the cafe next door. "I'm excited," Jessica said, checking her reflection in the glass door. "His work is supposed to be amazing." "How do you know?" I kept my voice casual. "Oh, I've seen his stuff online. He's really well regarded." The lie came so easily. I wondered how many others I'd missed over 8 years. Inside, the studio was exactly what I'd expected. Exposed brick, industrial lighting, carefully arranged backdrops. Evan Cross emerged from a back room, and I watched Jessica's face carefully. Her smile froze. Just for a second, but I caught it. "Mr. and Mrs. Patterson?" Cross extended his hand to me first. Mid-40s, graying at the temples, expensive watch. "Evan Cross, thanks for choosing my studio." "James," I shook his hand, then stepped back to watch him greet Jessica. "Mrs. Patterson." His voice was professionally warm, but his eyes lingered on her face a fraction too long. "Pleasure to meet you." "Jessica," she said. Her voice sounded slightly strained. "Your portfolio is beautiful." "Thank you." He gestured toward the main shooting area. "I've set up a few different backgrounds. We can start with something classic, then maybe try some more artistic shots if you're comfortable." I noticed he didn't say, "if you're both comfortable." The session began normally enough. Cross positioned us on a gray backdrop, adjusting lights and reflectors. He was good at his job, I'd give him that. Professional, efficient, making small talk about how we met, how long we'd been married. 8 years, I said. "Feels like yesterday." Jessica smiled at me, but I saw tension in her shoulders. Cross worked quickly, snapping dozens of shots, adjusting our positions. "Jessica, turn your shoulders slightly toward James." "Good. Now tilt your chin down just a touch." He moved around us, camera clicking. I watched him in my peripheral vision, noting how his gaze kept returning to my wife even when he wasn't shooting. "Let's try something more casual," he said after 20 minutes. "James, why don't you sit on this stool? Jessica, stand beside him, hand on his shoulder." As Jessica positioned herself, Cross adjusted a light stand. "You have excellent bone structure," he told her. "Very photogenic." "Thank you." Her voice was quiet. "Have you ever done any modeling?" The question sounded innocent, conversational. I felt Jessica tense beside me. "No, nothing like that." "Really?" Cross tilted his head, studying her through the camera. "You have a natural ease in front of the lens. Most people are much stiffer." "Just lucky, I guess," he smiled. "Luck and good genes." I let the moment stretch, then, "My wife's always been beautiful. I tell her she could have been a model." Cross lowered his camera. For just a second, something flickered across his face. Recognition? Concern? Then it was gone, replaced by professional courtesy. Well, she certainly has the look for it. He raised the camera again. Okay, this is great. Natural smiles, both of you. I smiled. Jessica smiled. Cross's shutter clicked. After 45 minutes, he suggested a break. I have coffee and water in the back. Help yourselves while I review what we've got. Jessica headed for the bathroom. I walked to the coffee station, but my attention was on Cross's workspace. His computer sat on a desk near the window, screen dark. Beside it, a leather portfolio lay closed. How's it looking? I asked, approaching him as he scrolled through images on his camera. Great shots. You two photograph well together. He didn't look up. Very natural chemistry. We've had practice. I moved closer, glancing at his screen. The photos were good. We looked like a happy couple. Do you do a lot of family sessions? Some. I prefer fine artwork, but family sessions pay the bills. I saw some of your artistic stuff online. I kept my tone appreciative, curious. The black and white series, very striking. His hands stilled on the camera. Thank you. That's more my passion project. The female form is art, classic subject. Exactly. He set the camera down, finally looking at me. Most people don't appreciate the difference between artistic nude photography and other things. I can tell yours is art. The lighting, the composition. You can't see the models' faces, but somehow that makes it more powerful. Cross's expression shifted slightly. You have a good eye. I appreciate quality work. I paused. Do you take private commissions for that kind of photography? The question hung between us. Cross studied me for a long moment. Occasionally, he said carefully, for the right client. And how does someone become the right client? Usually through referrals. It's a very select group. Jessica emerged from the bathroom before I could respond. Cross immediately shifted back into professional mode, suggesting we try some outdoor shots in the courtyard behind the studio. The rest of the session passed without incident. Cross was cordial, efficient, and gave no indication he'd ever seen my wife naked. Jessica remained slightly tense, but played her part well. As we wrapped up, Cross handed me a business card. I'll have the proofs ready in a few days. You can review them online and select which ones you'd like printed. Perfect. I pocketed the card. And if I wanted to discuss a private commission? For a gift? Jessica's head turned sharply toward me. Cross's smile was practiced. You can reach me at the number on that card. We can discuss details privately. Appreciate it. In the car, Jessica was quiet. I let the silence build as I navigated out of the parking lot. What kind of private commission? She finally asked. I was thinking of having him do a portrait of you. Something artistic. For my office. Oh. She looked out the window. That's sweet. You seemed uncomfortable in there. No, I don't love having my picture taken. Another lie. The woman who'd posed for hours in artistic nudes didn't love having her picture taken. Could have fooled me. Cross said you were very natural. He was just being nice. I turned onto the main road. He seemed to think you'd done modeling before. Well, I haven't. Her voice had an edge now. Can we talk about something else? Sure. I kept my eyes on the road. How's work been? Any interesting properties? She relaxed slightly. A few. There's a listing in Darien that might go fast. We talked about real estate for the rest of the drive. Safe, boring, normal. The kind of conversation we'd had 1,000 times. But I was thinking about Cross's face when I'd asked about private commissions. The careful way he'd measured his words. The select group of clients. And I was thinking about the text message I'd seen on Jessica's phone 2 nights ago, the one she'd deleted within seconds of receiving it. M had written, The photographer agreed. Everything's set for next month. This is really happening. Jessica had replied, I'm scared. Don't be. By Christmas, you'll be free. I pulled into our driveway at 11:23 a.m. Jessica gathered her purse, already reaching for the door handle. That was actually fun, she said. Thanks for setting it up. My pleasure. I smiled at her. I want to capture this moment. Us, exactly as we are right now. She leaned over and kissed my cheek. I love you. I love you too. She went inside. I sat in the car for another minute, pulling out my phone. I had Cross's business card, his studio address, his website, and now I had his reaction to seeing Jessica again, the carefully controlled recognition in his eyes. Victoria had been right. The photographer was a thread worth pulling. I opened my phone and sent her a message. Met with Cross. He knows her. Mentioned select clients for private work. Need to find out who's commissioning the new photos. Her response came within seconds. Private investigator can handle surveillance. I'll send contact info. I looked at our house, at the window where Jessica was probably already planning her next move. The family photos would be beautiful. We'd look happy, in love, perfectly matched. And in a few weeks, when everything came apart, I'd frame one and hang it in my new place. A reminder of how good people can be at pretending. The Friday afternoon meeting with Victoria ran 90 minutes. I brought her everything. The deleted texts I'd recovered from Jessica's cloud backup, the timeline of Cross's photo sessions, the LLC formation documents, the mysterious Christmas deadline. She spread the documents across her conference table like a general planning an invasion. The photographer is the weak link, she said, tapping Cross's business card. He's documented evidence of infidelity, he's connected to hidden income, and he clearly knows more than he's saying. I want to know who hired him recently, I said. That deleted text. The photographer agreed. Agreed to what? Victoria's smile was sharp. I have an investigator who specializes in financial forensics. If Cross received payment for another session with your wife, we'll find it. Bank transfers, Venmo, cash deposits. Money leaves traces. How long? For preliminary results? Monday, maybe Tuesday? She closed the folder. Meanwhile, you maintain the status quo. Act normal. Let her think she's winning. I drove home through rush hour traffic, practicing normalcy. Jessica's car was already in the driveway when I pulled in at 6:47 p.m. Through the kitchen window, I could see her moving around, preparing dinner. My phone buzzed as I killed the engine. Unknown number. The BMW is a 2024 750i, registered to Thornhill Capital Management, 200 Park Avenue. CEO is Michael Brennan. I stared at the screen. Michael Brennan. The name triggered something. A memory from business circles, charity events Jessica had dragged me to. Thornhill Capital was a hedge fund. Brennan was 42, divorced, worth somewhere north of $200 million. And his ex-wife had been Victoria's client. I texted back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. I sat in the car for another 2 minutes, letting my heartbeat settle. Then I grabbed my briefcase and walked inside. Hey, honey. Jessica looked up from the stove, her smile bright and easy. How was your day? Long. Conference calls with the West Coast team. The lie came smoothly. What's for dinner? Chicken piccata, your favorite. She turned back to the pan, humming something tuneless. I set my briefcase down and loosened my tie. I've been thinking about those photos from Cross. When do we get to see the proofs? He said 2 weeks for the edited gallery. She didn't turn around. Why? Just curious. He's got an interesting portfolio. Very artistic. Her shoulders tensed, just slightly. You looked at his website? Of course. Wanted to see what we're paying for. I opened the refrigerator, pulled out a beer. Some of his work is pretty edgy. The fashion stuff, the fine art series. I guess. Her voice was carefully neutral. I mostly just looked at the family portraits. I took a long drink, watching her reflection in the kitchen window. She was gripping the spatula too tightly. There was this one series, I continued, keeping my tone casual. Black and white, very tasteful. Model's face wasn't shown, but the composition was striking. Really showed off the female form. The spatula clattered against the pan. I wouldn't know. That's not really my thing. No? I moved closer, standing just behind her. I thought you appreciated photography. You're always talking about staging and lighting for your real estate listings. That's different. She turned, her smile strained. That's commercial. This sounds like, I don't know, art school stuff. I held her gaze for 3 seconds, then smiled. You're probably right. I'm overthinking it. I kissed her forehead. Smells great. I'm going to change. Upstairs, I closed the bedroom door and pulled out my phone. A quick search confirmed what Victoria had implied. Michael Brennan's divorce had been spectacular. His ex-wife had walked away with $80 million after Victoria proved he'd hidden assets in offshore accounts. The case had made the Wall Street Journal. And now Brennan was sleeping with my wife. The pieces were clicking together. A wealthy man who'd been burned in his divorce, who'd learned to be careful with money, who wanted exclusivity from the women he photographed. A real estate agent who'd formed a secret LLC, who'd posed nude for cash, who was planning something that would make her free by Christmas. My phone buzzed again. Unknown. Number. Brennan uses Cross for private sessions. Pays cash, no records. Your wife isn't the first. Me. How do you know this? Unknown. Number. Because I was stupid too. Check your email. I opened my email. A new message from a Gmail account. No name, just random letters and numbers. One attachment. The photo showed Michael Brennan leaving a brownstone in Manhattan, a blonde woman beside him. The timestamp was from 3 months ago. I zoomed in on the woman's face. Not Jessica. Someone younger, mid-20s, model thin. The email contained a single line. He collects us. Cross provides the introduction. The LLC is how he pays. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind racing. This wasn't just an affair. This was a pattern, a system. Brennan used Cross to find women, commissioned private photo sessions, then what? Recruited them? Paid them through shell companies? Another text. Cross has a studio in Red Hook. That's where the private sessions happen. Brennan owns the building. I typed quickly. When is Jessica's next session? Unknown number. Tomorrow night. 8 p.m. She told you she has a showing in Stamford. I checked Jessica's calendar, the one I'd hacked from her hidden Gmail. Sure enough, Stamford showing, 7 to 9 p.m., Riverside Road property. There was no Riverside Road property. I'd checked her MLS listings. Downstairs, Jessica called up, "Dinner's ready." I descended the stairs slowly, my face composed. She'd set the table with candles, poured wine into crystal glasses, playing the devoted wife. "This looks wonderful," I said, sitting down. We ate in relative silence, Jessica chattering about her day. A difficult client, a property that wouldn't move, the usual real estate gossip. I made appropriate noises, asked follow-up questions, played my role. At 8:23 p.m., my phone rang, Tom's name on the screen. "Sorry, I should take this," I told Jessica, stepping into my home office. "It's done," Tom said without preamble. "The Riverside contracts are signed. We're clear to proceed Monday." "Good." I kept my voice businesslike, aware Jessica might be listening. "Send me the final numbers." "Already in your inbox. James, you okay? You sound off." Just tired. Long week? Yeah, a pause. Listen, Sarah and I are having people over Sunday. Casual thing, just grilling. You and Jessica should come. Sarah was Tom's wife, a corporate lawyer who'd never particularly warmed to Jessica. The feeling was mutual. I'll check with Jessica. Might have an open house? Sure, let me know. He hung up. I stayed in the office, pulling up the email from the unknown sender. Read it again, studying the photo of Brennan and the blonde woman. Then I forwarded everything to Victoria with a single line. Need to discuss Monday morning. When I returned to the dining room, Jessica was clearing plates. Everything okay? She asked. Fine, just work stuff. I picked up my wine glass. What time is your showing tomorrow? 7. Shouldn't run late. The clients are pretty serious. She loaded the dishwasher, her back to me. You have plans? Thought I might catch up on some reading. Maybe watch the game. Sounds nice. She closed the dishwasher, turned to face me. I was thinking, maybe we should plan a vacation, after the holidays, somewhere warm. Yeah? I leaned against the counter. Where were you thinking? I don't know. Caribbean, maybe? We haven't done a real vacation in over a year. Because you've been busy posing nude and planning your exit, I thought. Out loud, I said, that could be good. We can look at dates. She crossed to me, wrapped her arms around my waist. I love you. The words hung between us, hollow and false. I kissed the top of her head. Love you too. That night, I lay awake beside her, listening to her breathing even out into sleep. My phone was on the nightstand, silent but glowing with possibility. At 1:47 a.m., I slipped out of bed and went downstairs. The security footage from Cross's photo session was still on my laptop. I watched it again, studying Jessica's body language, the way she'd moved through his studio. Comfortable. Familiar. This hadn't been her first time in that space. Another email arrived at 2:03 a.m. Unknown number. Red Hook Studio is 247 Van Brunt Street, 3rd floor. Brennan arrives at 8:30 after Cross finishes setup. He watches the whole session. That's his thing. I stared at the address. Tomorrow night, while Jessica told me she was showing a house in Stamford, she'd be in Brooklyn, posing for Brennan's private collection. And I was going to be there to document every second of it. The family photo session was scheduled for Thursday at 2 p.m., one of my late days, when Jessica thought I'd be safely in Manhattan until evening. I'd left the office at noon, telling Tom I had a client meeting in Westchester. The Audi was parked 3 blocks from Cross's studio in Chelsea, a converted warehouse space on West 27th Street. I'd arrived 40 minutes early, watching the entrance from a coffee shop across the street. Jessica's Lexus pulled up at 1:53 p.m. She checked her makeup in the rearview mirror before stepping out, wearing jeans and a cream sweater I'd bought her last Christmas. Natural, wholesome. The perfect client for a family portrait session. I gave her 5 minutes, then crossed the street. The studio occupied the 3rd floor. Industrial elevator, exposed brick walls, the smell of coffee and photochemicals. A reception area featured Cross's work, mostly corporate headshots and wedding photos. Nothing like the artistic portfolio I'd found online. A young woman at the desk looked up. Mr. Patterson? That's right. Evan's expecting you. Your wife just arrived. She gestured toward a frosted glass door. Studio B, straight back. I could hear Jessica's voice as I approached, light and friendly. Really appreciate you fitting us in. James has been so excited about getting professional photos done. Cross's response was harder to make out. Lower register, careful. I pushed through the door. The studio was larger than I'd expected. White cyclorama background, professional lighting rigs, a table with camera equipment. Jessica stood near the backdrop, and Cross was adjusting a softbox. He turned when I entered, and I watched his face carefully. There it was. Just a flicker, recognition, calculation, something like concern. Gone in half a second, replaced by a professional smile. James, great to meet you. He crossed the room, hand extended. Evan Cross. I shook his hand, maintaining eye contact. He was younger than I'd expected from his website bio. Early 30s, athletic build, expensive casual clothes. The kind of guy who'd photograph well himself. Thanks for making time for us, I said. Of course. He glanced at Jessica, then back to me. Your wife mentioned you wanted something for the holidays? That's right. Family portrait for the mantle. I moved to stand next to Jessica, putting my arm around her waist. She leaned into me automatically, the gesture so practiced it looked genuine. We've been meaning to do this for years. Cross nodded, already moving toward his camera. Let's start with some test shots. Get the lighting right. Jessica, you mentioned James works long hours, so I want to make sure we use our time efficiently. Interesting phrasing. I do, I said. Consulting. Lots of late nights. Tuesdays and Thursdays especially, Jessica added, her voice affectionate. I barely see him those days. Cross made a small adjustment to his camera settings. Well, you're here now. That's what matters. The session lasted 40 minutes. Cross was professional, efficient, directing us through various poses, standing, sitting, Jessica in front with my arms around her, both of us looking at the camera, looking at each other. Standard family portrait stuff. But I watched him. The way his eyes tracked Jessica when he thought I wasn't looking. The careful distance he maintained, never getting too close, never touching her to adjust a pose the way photographers sometimes did. He knew exactly who I was, and he was scared. These look great, he said finally, reviewing the shots on his camera's display. I'll have the proofs ready by Monday. You can select your favorites and I'll do the final retouching. Perfect. I pulled out my wallet. What do we owe you? I'll send an invoice with the proofs. No rush. Jessica gathered her purse. Thank you so much, Evan. These are going to be beautiful. My pleasure. He walked us to the door, and I felt his tension like a physical presence. I'll be in touch early next week. In the elevator, Jessica checked her phone. That went well. I think we'll get some really nice shots. He seems good at what he does. His portfolio was impressive. She slipped her phone back into her purse. Are you heading back to the office? Yeah, I've got a 3 o'clock call. The lie came easily now. You? Paperwork at the office, then a showing at 5 in Darien. She kissed my cheek as the elevator opened. See you tonight? Around 8. We separated on the sidewalk, her heading toward her car, me walking in the opposite direction. I counted to 60, then circled back. Cross's building had a service entrance on the side street. I'd noticed it during my earlier surveillance. The door was propped open with a brick, probably a fire code violation, but convenient. The stairwell was concrete and industrial. I climbed to the 3rd floor and eased the door open. The reception area was empty. The young woman must have stepped out. I could hear Cross's voice from Studio B, talking on the phone. I know, but he was right there. What was I supposed to do? A pause. No, he didn't seem suspicious. Just a regular client. Another pause, longer. Saturday's still on. She confirmed this morning. I moved closer to the frosted glass, staying out of sight. Look, I've been doing this for 3 years without problems. I know how to handle it. His voice had an edge now. The photos are clean, the payment's clean, everything's clean. There's no connection. Silence while the other person spoke. Fine, yes. I'll be more careful. He exhaled audibly. But we need to talk about the arrangement. If this is getting too risky, I'd heard enough. I retreated down the hallway, out the service entrance, back to the street. In my car, I pulled out my phone and called Victoria. "Tell me you have something," she said by way of greeting. Cross knows Brennan. They just had a phone conversation. Cross was nervous about the photo session. Called someone immediately after we left. "Can you prove the connection?" "Not yet. But Saturday night, Jessica has another session scheduled at his Red Hook studio. The anonymous source was right. And you're planning to be there. I'm planning to document it." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "James, if you're thinking about confronting them..." "I'm not. I'm thinking about evidence. Photos, video, whatever I can get that shows the connection between Cross, Brennan, and Jessica." "How are you planning to access the studio?" "Still working on that." "Work faster. And James?" Her tone sharpened. "Do not do anything that could compromise the legal case. No breaking and entering, no assault, nothing that could be used against you." "Understood." "I mean it. You've been perfect so far. Patient, methodical, clean. Don't get stupid now because you're angry." "I'm not angry," I said. She laughed, a short bark of sound. "Yes, you are. You're furious. But you're channeling it productively, which is why we're going to win. Keep channeling." After we hung up, I sat in the car and pulled up the property records for Cross's Red Hook studio. The building was a converted factory, divided into artist spaces and small commercial units. Cross leased Studio 4C on the 4th floor. According to the building's website, units were accessible 24/7 with a keycard. Security cameras in the lobby and stairwells. Fire exits on each floor. I opened my laptop and started mapping the building's layout, cross-referencing with Google Street View and the building management's promotional photos. The 4th floor had 6 units, arranged in a U-shape around a central hallway. Studio 4C was at the far end, with windows facing the street. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Cross calls him after every session. They meet monthly at Brennan's club. "You need to see the studio before Saturday." I stared at the message. My anonymous source, still feeding me information. I typed back, "Who are you?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. I tried again. "Why are you helping me?" This time the response came immediately. "Because he did the same thing to me, and no one believed me." The divorce was finalized on a gray morning in February, 3 months after I'd walked into that Red Hook studio with a camera and a court order. Victoria had been right about everything. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage, financial records, text messages, and the photographs I'd taken that Saturday night. Jessica's attorney tried to argue entrapment, tried to claim I'd violated her privacy, but Connecticut law was clear. Adultery was adultery, and hidden assets were hidden assets. The judge wasn't sympathetic. Jessica walked away with nothing. The prenuptial agreement I'd had her sign before our wedding, the one she'd forgotten about in her eagerness to become Mrs. Patterson, had an infidelity clause. Our house, the investment accounts, even the Lexus she'd driven to her secret sessions. All mine. The LLC she'd formed to hide Brennan's payments was dissolved, the funds seized as marital assets she'd attempted to conceal. Brennan himself disappeared from the equation quickly. His attorneys made it clear he had no interest in being deposed, and the threat of another public scandal was enough to make him cut all ties with Jessica. The last I heard, she was living in a studio apartment in Bridgeport, working for a different real estate agency. Her career never recovered from the whispers. Evan Cross lost his studio lease after the building's management learned what he'd been using the space for. Last I checked, he was doing corporate headshots out of a shared workspace in Queens. The anonymous messenger turned out to be a woman named Ashley Bennett, Brennan's previous project before Jessica. She'd reached out after seeing Jessica's name in the society pages next to mine, recognizing the pattern she'd lived through herself. Her testimony helped Victoria establish Brennan's history, though we never needed it in court. The evidence against Jessica stood on its own. I kept the house in Riverside, but sold it 6 months after the divorce. Too many ghosts in those rooms. Too many memories of the life I'd thought I was building. I bought a condo in Stamford, closer to the office, with floor-to-ceiling windows and clean lines. No history, no baggage. Tom and I expanded the consulting firm. Business was good. Turned out the skills I'd developed documenting my wife's betrayal translated well to corporate investigations and due diligence work. We added a forensic accounting division, hired 3 new associates, opened a second office in Boston. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. I'd learned to trust my instincts, to verify what I was told, to look for the spaces between what people said and what they did. Maybe that made me cynical, or maybe it just made me careful. The family photos from Evan Cross's studio arrived 2 weeks after I'd filed for divorce. I'd forgotten I'd even ordered prints. They showed a handsome couple in their 30s, smiling at the camera, his arm around her waist, her head tilted toward his shoulder. We looked happy. We looked real. I kept one photo. Not to remember Jessica, but to remember the lesson. People are performers, all of us. We curate our lives like galleries, showing only what we want others to see. The smiles and photographs, the stories we tell at dinner parties, the versions of ourselves we present to the world. They're all carefully composed, lit, and edited. The truth lives in the shadows, in the metadata, in the moments between poses when we think no one's watching. My mistake wasn't trusting Jessica. It was assuming the performance was the whole story. I learned to look deeper, to verify, to trust the evidence over the narrative. The photo sits on my desk now, in a simple black frame. A reminder that the most dangerous lies are the ones we want to believe. That love without verification is just faith, and faith is a luxury I can no longer afford. Sometimes late at night, I wonder if Jessica ever thinks about what she lost. If she understands that the money, the house, the life she was planning with Brennan, none of it was worth the price she paid. But then I remember the coldness in her eyes during the deposition, the way she'd tried to paint me as the villain, controlling and distant, driving her into another man's arms. She never took responsibility, never apologized, never acknowledged that her choices had consequences. In the end, that told me everything I needed to know. I built a new life from the wreckage of the old one. Better this time. Stronger. Based on evidence and truth rather than assumptions and hope. The screenshot that changed everything sits in a locked folder on my computer, along with hundreds of other pieces of evidence I'll never need again. I keep them not as trophies, but as proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't paranoid, wasn't wrong to trust what I could see over what I was told. Victory in divorce court doesn't feel the way you think it will. There's no triumph, no satisfaction in watching someone you once loved lose everything. There's just the quiet certainty that you did what needed to be done, that you protected yourself from someone who'd stopped protecting you years ago. I learned that marriage, like any contract, requires both parties to honor their commitments. When one person breaks faith, the whole structure collapses. You can't negotiate with someone who's already decided you're the obstacle to their happiness. The best you can do is document the damage, protect your interests, and walk away clean. Some nights I still wake up angry. Not at Jessica, but at myself, for all the signs I'd missed, all the late nights I'd worked while she built her exit strategy. But anger is just wasted energy. I channel it into my work, into building something that can't be taken from me by someone else's lies. The moral, if there is one, is simple. Trust is earned through consistency, not promises. Love without accountability is just permission to be hurt. And the person who shows you who they really are, through their actions, not their words, is giving you a gift, even when it destroys everything you thought you knew. I'm grateful for that gift now, though it took months to see it that way. Jessica taught me to verify, to look beneath the surface, to understand that the life you think you're living might just be a performance you haven't been invited to direct. And in learning that lesson, I became someone who couldn't be fooled again. The screenshot that changed everything hangs in my office now, printed and framed next to my degrees and awards. Not the family photo, the other one. The image that started it all. Jessica in our kitchen, kissing a stranger, thinking she was unobserved. It reminds me every day that the truth is always there, waiting in the shadows. You just have to be willing to look.